Well, we've come to another testimonial. This is Deborah Wilson with Georgia Nutritional Services, another longtime sponsor of the Summer Food Service Program, now Happy Helpings here in Georgia. And let's listen to Deborah and get her views on how important this program is. Here.
Hello, my name is Deborah Wilson, and I'm the Executive Director of Georgia Nutritional Services, and we administer the Summer Food Program here in the state of Georgia. Georgia Nutritional Services participates in the Summer Food Program because it allows for meals to be distributed to children when school is not in session. For me, as the Executive Director, it just overwhelms my heart to know that I'm doing something good for the community. And the children are just my heart. Everybody's children are my children. So it makes it even easier. And I want the parents to be excited to know that we are providing those meals to their children. And they don't have to worry about where their next meal is going to come from because they know Georgia Nutritional Services is right there, right at their doorstep. To organizations in the state of Georgia who would like to participate in SFSP, I encourage you to do so. It allows you more avenues and open windows and access to children and providing nutritious meals. It gives you an opportunity to run your own program the way that you want to run it because you're in charge. You're responsible for preparing the meals and delivering the meals and making sure that those meals meet the nutrition value for the children. And just meeting the children, they're excited about receiving those meals. So I really would like to challenge you and encourage you to participate in SFSP. So just knowing that we are doing something good for our communities, that we are reaching low-income areas where children really need the meal service, that in itself just makes the program so important. And we just want to make sure that we continue doing this process and participating in SFSP so that children can receive the meals that they need.
Thanks so much, Deborah. I couldn't have put it better ourselves when it comes to doing something for your community that makes you feel good about what you're doing. And I love the way she said they're all our children, whether you have children of your own or not, by living in your community, they're all our children. You know, the expression, it takes a village. Well, it really does. And we appreciate your interest in serving nutritional, healthy snacks and meals to children this summer. Well, let's review a little bit the process for applying as a sponsor for Happy Helpings. Joining us to talk through the process is our Application Services Manager, Demetria Thornton. Demetria, welcome to our webinar today.
Hi, Rich. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes. Can you hear me now?
I can.
We got you. You're good. Well, we're so glad that you are with us today. And sponsors are required to meet certain eligibility requirements even before they can apply for the program. Tell us about those requirements, please.
So sponsoring organizations are essentially responsible for operating the food service program. First, they must be financially viable, meaning they have the funds to operate the program. Next, they must be administratively capable, meaning they must have the staff to run the program as intended. Other requirements include providing an active 501c3, providing year-round services in the community, and being able to provide 12 months of financial documentation for the organization. All of these requirements must be met before taking the next step as applying for a sponsor.
And let's say an organization says, yes, I can check that box, I can meet those requirements. What do they do next?
So there are 3 steps in the process for applying for the program. Step 1, private nonprofits are required to complete a viability screening. We encourage all potential sponsors to submit the viability screening within 30 days of receiving it. The last opportunity to submit the screening is 7 days prior to the last new sponsor training. And this year, that training is scheduled for April 27th and 28th. The second step is once the viability screening has been deemed successful, organizations can attend one of the 3 training sessions. We have 1 in March and we have 2 in April. At training, organizations will receive access to the application. Then the deadline to submit the application is June the 15th.
Okay, and that viability screening checklist is pretty comprehensive. Some organizations say they find it challenging to submit the complete document, and I'm sure you have processed thousands of these through the years. So I'm wondering, what are some common mistakes that might delay approval? And to help simplify the process, you and Tamika recorded a video offering some tips and suggestions on how to successfully complete the viability screening. So let's take a look at that right now.
Sounds good.
Hello, my name is Tamika Boone, and I am the Director of Nutrition Services for the Georgia Department of Early Care and Learning. Our division administers Happy Helpings, Georgia's summer food service program. This program is really important because it ensures that Georgia's children have access to free, nutritious meals when school lets out for the summer. Nonprofit organizations like yourself across Georgia may be eligible to participate in this program and may be eligible to receive financial reimbursement for serving meals and snacks to children. So if your organization is interested, stay tuned because we're going to learn a little bit more about that first step in participating in Happy Helpings, which is to complete the viability screening checklist, also known as the VCA. Now, at first glance, the VCA can be a little challenging to complete. So I've invited Demetria Thornton, our application services manager, to join us to answer some of the most commonly asked questions we get about this document. Demetria, welcome. We're so glad to have you. Can you please start out by just explaining what is the viability checklist and which organizations are required to complete the document?
Hi, Tamika. Yes, so the viability checklist is a tool we use to determine organizations' financial viability and administrative capability. The viability checklist is required for private nonprofit organizations that are interested in participating in Happy Helpings as a sponsor. Organizations that wish to host a meal site are not required to complete the document. Now, we will be asking for the same documents from all organizations, whether you're large or small. Some of the documentation that we will be requesting are compensation plans, policies and procedures, and job descriptions.
All right, Demetria, so to be clear, only private nonprofit organizations that want to become sponsors are required to complete this VCA. So government entities and organizations like libraries and housing authorities, parks and recreation departments, public schools, and national nonprofits like Boys and Girls Clubs and YMCAs, the Salvation Army, those entities are not required to complete this document. Is that right?
That's correct, Tamika. So government entities and national nonprofits are exempt from completing the checklist. This is because these requirements are mandatory for the entity to exist.
So Demetria, why are private nonprofit organizations required to complete the viability checklist?
So as I mentioned, the checklist determines if an organization is financially viable and administratively capable. It requires organizations to think through the process of how they would incorporate meals with the services they are currently providing to the community. Now, this process helps make sure the organizations are set up for success.
All right, so the checklist is divided into 4 categories: financial viability, operational capability, administrative capability, and program accountability. I'd like to briefly review each of those sections, and then I'll ask you to share some of the most common issues you encounter when reviewing those documents. So let's start out first with financial viability. An approved sponsoring organization accepts the ultimate responsibility for managing the Happy Helpings program, from preparing the meals to operating the meal sites. And we need potential sponsors to be able to demonstrate that they have the financial means necessary to operate the program and to take on that type of responsibility. What kind of documentation are you looking for to demonstrate financial viability?
So in this section, we are asking organizations to describe their outreach plan used to promote services that they offer in the local community and the promotional tactics or tools they use to promote Happy Helpings. They will also be required to identify potential feeding sites. Here we are evaluating the financial health of the organization. We review their financial obligations and any assets that would be used to fund Happy Helpings. Organizations will be required to submit financial documents. This includes an independent audit or audited financial statements performed by a CPA within the last 2 years, or 12 months of bank statements, annual financial statements, payroll tax records, and their most recent tax forms.
Demonstrating financial viability is an important part of this VCA process. What are some of the common mistakes you see organizations make when they're submitting their financial information?
So the most common mistake is that organizations fail to submit required financial documentation. As I mentioned, 12 months of bank statements are required. However, many organizations do not provide 12 months. We often may get 2 months, 4 months, or 6 months. Again, all required documentation must be submitted.
The next section of the VCA is operational capability. Demetria, what kind of documentation are you looking for here as it relates to Happy Helpings meal service operations?
So in this section, organizations must be able to demonstrate that the kitchen used to prepare meals meets local health and sanitation requirements. We ask for copies of the food service permit inquiry form and supporting documentation. Organizations are also asked to describe their plan for providing meals to eligible participants in the summer. Here are 3 quick examples of some of the things that will be required: the description of the kitchen or facility, the type of meals that would be served, and how menus would be created.
What are some of the common mistakes you see here that organizations make when they're submitting information for the operational capability section?
So the most common mistake is that organizations fail to submit a meal service plan. This section often goes left blank. As a result, there is no way for us to determine the organization's operational capability.
Let's move on to the next section, administrative capability. Now, this section is referring to organizations having adequate and qualified staff to manage the program. What is important for potential sponsors to know, and what kind of documentation is required for this section?
So here we're asking organizations to describe how they would incorporate staff responsibilities of Happy Helpings with their current activities. They will also need to provide job descriptions, an organizational chart, a compensation plan for all positions, and personnel policies and procedures.
All right, Demetria, can you share obstacles that you commonly come across when potential sponsors are completing the administrative capability section?
Yes. So the most common blind spot is that organizations will only submit a compensation plan for Happy Helpings. We are trying to assess the organization's administrative capability as a whole. Therefore, the compensation plan must be submitted for all positions.
The last section of the viability screening is program accountability. Organizations are asked to demonstrate how they will be accountable for program funds, how they will ensure the nutritional value of meals served to children. And so in this section, we want to confirm that the organization's governing board has adequate oversight and that they can ensure compliance with program requirements. Is that right?
Correct. Here we're reviewing the organization's governing board. We ask for copies of the official board meeting minutes as well as upcoming board meeting dates. We are also looking for the tool the organization uses to screen current and prospective board members. We ask organizations to describe their board's composition and their voting process.
All right. And what are some of the challenges you see for this section of the VCA?
The most common challenge is that organizations do not have an active board. Therefore, they are unable to provide board meeting minutes.
All right. So now if an organization, Demetria, is unable to complete this VCA, or if they're a newly established nonprofit, what options does it have to participate in Happy Helpings?
We encourage these organizations to consider hosting a meal site. This is a great way for them to get experience with the program and to prepare them to be a potential sponsor for the next summer.
All right, Demetria, now that we have reviewed the VCA in depth, how can an organization request a viability screening checklist to complete?
Organizations can request a viability screening by contacting our marketing department via email at happyhelpings@dcal.ga.gov or by phone at 404-657-1779. Another option is to visit our website, happyhelpingsga.com, click on sponsors at the top of the page, and complete the online form.
All right, Demetria, is there a deadline to submit the VCA to nutrition services when they want to participate in Happy Helpings?
We recommend that organizations submit the checklist as soon as possible. This will allow time for our team to review the information and ask clarifying questions. The absolute last opportunity to return the checklist is 7 days prior to the last new sponsor training.
All right, well, that is it. Thank you, Demetria, so much for providing that insight. Thanks to you viewers who tuned in to learn about completing the VCA process to participate in the Happy Helpings program. We hope that we've answered your questions. We hope that you found this overview helpful. But most of all, we look forward to partnering with you to feed Georgia's children. Have a great day.
And as always, great job, Demetria and Tamika, on that information. Demetria, anything you want to highlight out of that that's most important for folks that are viewing today?
So I encourage organizations to complete the viability screening in its entirety and submit it as soon as possible. This will allow time for our team to review and ask any type of clarifying questions.
Excellent. And if an organization meets the eligibility requirements, how do they start the process?
So the next step is for them to contact our marketing team. They will provide them with a viability screening or assist the organization in registering for training. They can email Cindy Kicklighter at happyhelpings@decal.ga.gov, or she can be contacted at 678-841-3170.
All right, great. Thank you for sharing that important information, Demetria. To review, you can request a viability screening from the marketing team. We recommend that you submit that document within 30 days, but the last opportunity to turn it in is 7 business days before the last remaining training. And again, that's April 27th and 28th. Well, Demetria, if you're ready, we thought we would take a few more questions. So we're going to bring Cindy Kicklighter back on screen and see what folks are wondering. You guys may have covered everything as far as I know, but let's see if they have any questions.
All right. So my nonprofit was effective May 3rd, 2021. Is there a waiting period that I would have to wait to be established to participate as a sponsor in the program?
So the organization will need to have provided year-round services in the community. So that would be at least for 12 months. And they will also have to submit financial documentation for that organization for 12 months. So this organization would not be eligible to participate as a sponsor this year. Again, the VCA must be submitted 7 business days prior to the last new sponsor training, and that is April the 28th. So we would encourage this organization to actually consider being, hosting a meal service site.
Okay. Do we have to do the VCA screening before signing up for training class?
Yes. So if you are a private nonprofit organization, the VCA is required prior to signing up for training.
Okay. Did she say for a new 501c3, they would host a food program? I guess if you could explain the meal site program a little bit more. I think what she means is if you're a newly established organization, you could be a meal site. So could you explain that?
So yes, if you are a newly established organization, you could actually host a meal service site. You would actually be under the sponsorship of one of our already approved sponsors, and pretty much you would just be there receiving the meals. However, you would still get the experience by serving meals and get familiar with our forms and any type of regulation and requirements that we have of the program.
Okay. Another question, if you are a 501c3 nonprofit, are you required to fill out the viability screening?
Yes, if you are a private nonprofit organization, you are required to complete the viability screening.
Okay, a couple more questions. You mentioned in the video about the financial viability that you're looking for that in a nonprofit. Is there a certain amount of funds that a nonprofit has to have in their account to be considered financially viable?
So no, organizations do not have to have a specific dollar amount. However, the organization's account cannot be in the negative. Keep in mind that this is a reimbursement program. Therefore, organizations they will have some responsibilities, financial responsibilities. Some of these responsibilities will include labor costs, food costs, equipment, and supplies. So the organization's financial status will dictate the number of sites that that organization can operate.
Okay, one last question. This should be pretty easy. What are the dates of the Happy Helpings program?
So Happy Helpings operates when school is not in session. So it's going to depend on which county that you're trying to operate in. So once school is out of session in the summer for whatever county that you're trying to operate in, then Happy Helpings can start.
Okay, I'm just going to throw this one in, and this will be the last question. Who delivers the food to the site locations?
So that's going to depend on the sponsor. The sponsoring organization, if they are vended, they may have the food service company deliver the meals to the sites, or if they have an agreement with the sites can actually come pick up the meals, or the sponsor can deliver the meals to the sites. So it's a couple of options there.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Demetria. We appreciate that information. It's very well done. Thank you.
Thank you.